Stop, don't spend that Washington quarter yet. The 1987D and 1997P you're about to see may look ordinary, but one tiny detail could make all the difference. Most people spend these coins without checking them. Stay until the end, because I'll show you exactly what to look for before you let one disappear for just 25 cents. The coin number 1. Stop before you spend that 1987D Washington quarter. Take a closer look. Most people would see a regular 25-cent coin and immediately spend it. But what if the coin in your hand has unusually high-grade surfaces, a strong strike, or a genuine mint error? The 1987D Washington quarter isn't automatically a fortune, but certain exceptional examples can be worth far more than face value. So before you put yours back into your pocket, let's discover exactly what makes this quarter worth checking. The 1987D Washington quarter was produced at the Denver Mint, and the small D mint mark is the first thing you should look for. More than 655 million were struck, which means the date itself isn't considered extremely rare. NGC. But here's where coin collecting becomes interesting. A coin doesn't have to be rare in its original mintage to become difficult to find in exceptional condition. Millions of quarters entered circulation, and over the years most were handled, scratched, dropped, and exposed to normal wear. Finding one that still looks remarkably fresh is a completely different story. Turn the coin over and look at the reverse. You'll see the familiar American eagle with its wings spread wide. Around it are the inscriptions United States of America, EPLUBUS UNUM, and quarter dollar. Now turn it back to the front. There is George Washington, America's first president, with the date 1987 below him. Under the date, look for that tiny D. That little letter tells you this particular quarter came from Denver. And now comes the part that can make your inspection much more interesting: condition. Take your 1987D quarter and place it under good lighting. Don't judge it from across the room. Look extremely closely at Washington's cheek, hair, jaw, and the open fields around his portrait. Do you see lots of scratches? Does the coin show obvious wear? Are the surfaces dull and heavily marked? If so, you're probably looking at an ordinary circulated example. But if the coin has strong original luster, sharp details, and remarkably clean surfaces, slow down. That is the kind of coin collectors pay much more attention to. The reason is simple: grade matters. A quarter that has spent years circulating can quickly accumulate tiny contact marks. Coins often hit other coins inside bags, rolls, machines, and pockets. Even a coin that looks beautiful to the naked eye may have enough small marks to prevent it from reaching a premium grade. And at the highest grades, even tiny imperfections can matter. That's why you shouldn't assume that every 1987D Washington quarter is worth hundreds of dollars. The normal coin isn't. The exciting values are concentrated in exceptional examples. For example, PCGS records a 1987D Washington quarter graded MS-67 that sold at auction for $292. PCGS's current guide lists an MS-67 example around $340. PCGS +1. That is a very different situation from saying every 1987D quarter is worth $292. It isn't. This is an exceptionally graded specimen. So if you find a 1987D quarter in your change, don't immediately imagine a massive jackpot. Instead, ask a much smarter question. Could this particular coin be unusually well preserved? That's what experienced collectors do. Now let's talk about something else that can change a coin's story completely. Mint errors. If your 1987D quarter looks unusual, don't immediately throw it away. But also don't automatically call every strange-looking mark an error. A scratch isn't necessarily an error. A dent isn't necessarily an error. A gouge isn't necessarily an error. Damage that happened after the coin left the mint does not normally make it a valuable mint error. A genuine mint error is something that happened during the manufacturing process. So if you see something unusual, perhaps an abnormal strike, unusual doubling, a clipped planchet, or another feature that appears to have happened during production, protect the coin and have the feature properly examined. This is especially important because the internet is full of photographs of damaged coins being described as extremely rare errors. Don't make that mistake. Now let's look at the coin's history. The Washington quarter had already been part of American coinage for decades by 1987. The quarter carries Washington's portrait, making it one of the most recognizable denominations in the United States. The 1987 D is a clad quarter, not one of the older 90% silver Washington quarters. So don't assume that because a quarter is old-looking or has a silver-colored edge, it must contain silver. The 1987 D belongs to the modern clad era. And that makes condition even more important when you're searching for collectible examples. Now imagine finding one in an old coin jar. You pull out a quarter. It says 1987. You turn it over. There's the D. At first, nothing looks special. But then you notice the surfaces are unusually bright. Washington's portrait is sharp. The eagle's details are strong. There are very few contact marks. Suddenly, that ordinary-looking quarter deserves another look. And this is exactly why coin hunting can be so exciting. Sometimes the valuable part isn't obvious. It's hidden in the grade. Now here's another important warning. Don't clean your coin. Never use toothpaste. Never use metal polish. Never scrape the surface. Never use harsh chemicals just to make the coin shine. A coin that looks dirty can still have collectible surfaces, while a cleaned coin can lose much of its appeal to collectors. If you think you've found an unusually nice 1987 D, leave it alone. Put it somewhere safe. Handle it by the edges. And if it appears exceptional, consider professional authentication and grading. Remember, a professional grade isn't simply a fancy label. It helps establish the condition and authenticity of the coin, which can be extremely important when you're dealing with higher value pieces. Now let's answer the biggest question. Is every 1987 D Washington quarter valuable? Absolutely not. Most are ordinary coins. But that doesn't mean you should ignore them. A coin with a very high grade or a genuine mint error can be much more interesting than a normal circulated example. And that's the difference between face value and collector value. Your quarter says 25 cents. But its collector value depends on what makes that particular coin different. The 1987 D is a perfect example of why you should learn to inspect coins instead of judging them simply by their date. The mintage was huge, more than 655 million, but truly exceptional coins are a different category. NGC. So if you're searching through old change, coin jars, inherited collections, or rolls of quarters, here's what you should remember. Find the 1987 date. Look for the D mint mark. Check the overall condition. Study Washington's portrait. Examine the reverse. Look carefully for unusual features. And never clean the coin. If your quarter is heavily circulated, don't expect a fortune. But if you discover one that looks remarkably close to untouched, with excellent luster and very few marks, that's when it becomes worth investigating further. And if you believe you've found a genuine mint error, don't sell it based on a random internet claim. Get it authenticated. Because the difference between a damaged quarter and a genuine mint error can be enormous. So the next time a 1987 D Washington quarter appears in your hand, don't immediately think, it's only 25 cents. Instead, ask, what condition is it in? Does it have anything unusual? Could this be an exceptional example? That's the mindset that turns ordinary coin searching into serious collecting. The 1987 D Washington quarter may not be a guaranteed fortune, but exceptional examples have demonstrated that the right coin can sell for substantially more than face value. A certified MS-67 example, for instance, reached $292 at auction. PCGS. So before you spend yours, give it one final look. Check the date. Check the D. Check Washington. Check the eagle. Check the surfaces. And most importantly, don't clean it. Because you never know when an ordinary-looking quarter might contain the one detail that makes a collector stop and take a second look. Your quarter may be common, but your job is to find out before you spend it. The coin number 2. Stop before you spend a 1997 P Washington quarter. Look at it one more time. Most people see a quarter, see the date, and immediately spend it. But what if your 1997 P has something that most examples don't? The date itself isn't extremely rare, but condition, unusual mint-made features, and exceptionally high grades can completely change the story. So if you have a 1997 P Washington quarter in an old collection, coin jar, drawer, or even your pocket change, don't ignore it just yet. Stay with me, because we're going to examine exactly what you should look for before deciding that this is just another 25-cent coin. First, turn the coin to the front. You should see the familiar portrait of George Washington with the date 1997 underneath. Now look carefully near the date area for the tiny P mint mark. That P tells you the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. And here's something interesting. Nearly 596 million 1997 P Washington quarters were produced. That means the normal 1997 P is not a rare coin simply because it says 1997 P. PCGS. So why are collectors still interested in it? Because coin collecting isn't always about the number originally produced. Sometimes the real challenge is finding an example that survived in exceptional condition. Think about what happens to a quarter after it leaves the mint. It can be thrown into a cash register, mixed with hundreds of other coins, dropped onto hard surfaces, carried in pockets, pushed through machines, and handled thousands of times. Every one of those encounters can leave tiny marks on the surface. That's why a beautiful, sharply struck, nearly mark-free 1997 P can be much more interesting than an ordinary circulated example. Now take your coin and place it under good light. Look closely at Washington's cheek. Look at his forehead. Look around the hair and jaw. Then examine the open fields around the portrait. Do you see scratches? Small contact marks? Dull areas? Heavy wear? If the answer is yes, you're probably looking at a normal circulated quarter. But if the coin has strong original luster, sharp details, and extremely clean surfaces, don't rush to spend it. That's when the grade becomes important. A coin can look beautiful to the naked eye and still have enough tiny marks to prevent it from reaching a top grade. At the highest levels of coin grading, small imperfections can make a major difference. And this is where the 1997 P becomes much more interesting. PCGS records a 1997 P Washington quarter graded MS-67+, that sold for $3,525 in 2016. PCGS. Now please don't misunderstand that number. This does not mean every 1997 P quarter is worth $3,525. It doesn't. That was an exceptionally high grade, professionally certified example. A normal worn 1997p is generally just a normal quarter. That's why you should never look at a headline saying 1997p quarter worth thousands and assume every coin has that value. The real question is, what makes your individual coin different? Now flip the quarter over. The reverse features the American eagle with its wings spread, surrounded by the familiar inscriptions United States of America, EPLUBUS UNUM, and quarter dollar. Look carefully at the eagle. Are the details sharp? Does the coin still have good luster? Are there lots of scratches across the fields? Does the edge look normal? You are looking for anything that separates your coin from an ordinary circulated example. And there's another important point. The 1997p Washington quarter is a copper-nickel clad coin, not one of the older silver Washington quarters. Its composition is a copper-nickel outer layer over a copper core. PCGS. So don't assume that because your quarter looks silver-colored, it contains silver. It doesn't work that way. Now let's talk about mint errors. This is where many coin videos become misleading. If your 1997p has a strange scratch, don't immediately call it a rare error. If it has a dent, don't automatically call it a mint error. If someone damaged it after it left the mint, that is completely different from an error created during production. A genuine mint error happens during the manufacturing process. So if your quarter has something genuinely unusual, such as an abnormal strike, a significant missing portion, unusual doubling, a clipped planchet, or another feature that appears to have occurred at the mint, then it deserves much closer attention. But don't guess. If the feature could simply be damage, professional examination is the safer route. Now imagine you find a 1997p Washington quarter inside an old jar. You pull it out. At first, it looks completely ordinary. You see Washington. You see 1997. You see the tiny P. Then you turn it toward the light. Suddenly, you notice something different. The coin has unusually strong luster. The surfaces are remarkably clean. The details are sharp. There are almost no distracting contact marks. That's the moment when you stop treating it like ordinary pocket change. You don't clean it. You don't polish it. You don't scratch it. You don't put chemicals on it. You simply protect it. Because cleaning a collectible coin can damage the original surface and reduce its collector appeal. This is one of the biggest mistakes beginners make. They find an old coin and think, I'll make it shiny. But collectors don't necessarily want a shiny coin. They want a coin with its original surfaces preserved. So if you believe your 1997p is unusually nice, leave it alone. Now here's another thing that makes coin hunting exciting. The 1997p may be common in ordinary grades, but the population becomes much more interesting when you move toward very high grades. PCGS lists the coin as a regular strike 1997p with a mintage of 595,740,000, yet the auction record shows how dramatically value can change for an exceptional certified specimen. PCGS +1. That is the lesson you should remember. Mintage is only one part of the story. Condition matters. Strike matters. Surface quality matters. Errors matter. Authentication matters. And collector demand matters. So if you have a 1997p Washington quarter, don't ask only, is 1997 rare? Ask a better question. Is my particular coin exceptional? That's a much smarter way to examine coins. Now let's go through your inspection one more time. First, confirm the 1997 date. Second, look for the P mint mark. Third, inspect Washington's portrait. Fourth, check the fields for scratches and contact marks. Fifth, look at the reverse eagle carefully. Sixth, examine the overall luster and strike. Seventh, look for anything that could potentially be a genuine mint error. And finally, do not clean the coin. If your quarter is heavily circulated, don't expect a huge value. But if you have an exceptionally preserved example, or you discover a feature that appears genuinely mint-made, that's when professional authentication and grading may be worth considering. And here's the most important warning for your viewers. Don't believe every $1 million quarter claim you see online. A 1997 P Washington quarter is not automatically worth thousands or millions. The documented high-end example is valuable because of its exceptional grade, not because every 1997 P quarter is rare. PCGS's auction record shows $3,525 for an MS-67 Plus example. PCGS. So don't throw away your 1997 P. But don't assume you're a millionaire either. Inspect it first. That's the real secret. A quarter can look ordinary from a distance. But when you examine the date, mint mark, surfaces, strike, and possible errors, you may discover that your particular example deserves much more attention. So the next time a 1997 P Washington quarter lands in your hand, don't immediately put it back into your pocket. Turn it over. Look at Washington. Find the P. Study the eagle. Look at the surfaces. Check the condition. And if something looks truly unusual, protect the coin and have it properly examined. Because the most exciting part of coin collecting isn't believing that every old coin is a fortune. It's knowing exactly what to look for when something really is special. So before you spend that 1997 P Washington quarter, give it one more look. It may be ordinary, but you'll never know until you check the details.